Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and this week I'm joined by American retro design expert Dustin Lee and the incredibly talented South African illustrator Lisa Glantz. In today's episode, we talk about how you're the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. We look at the impact this can have on your creative work and your mindset. So without further ado, let's get into the show. What's up, guys? We're here today. We're down Mr. Ian Barnard, but I am here with the lovely Lisa and the delectable Dustin.
Yay!
How are we?
Oh, you did. Yeah. What did they call that when you
guy.
use like the same letter? You did lovely Lisa, delectable Dustin.
Alliteration, my friend.
That's right, alliteration. Invented by the British. many centuries ago.
From the Latin to alliterate.
Okay.
Tantalating Tom.
Ooh, tantalizing, you mean?
Tantalizing Tom, sorry. Not as good at English because it's English.
And not titillating.
Oh,
Ooh.
okay, stop that, you guys.
Yes.
It's getting out of hand already. So clearly it's going to be a silly episode, guys, but that's just fine because we don't have Ian to rein us in and be the sensible one.
That's true.
So we are talking about how you are the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And of course, this is a ubiquitous rule in life, but I think very much so within creativity as well. So, you know, this takes many forms. It could literally be the people closest to you in life, the people you see the most, you know, spend the biggest number of hours with in your day-to-day life. But equally, I think it applies to the people on your social media feed. And that kind of thing, you know, Who are you consuming? Who are you being impacted by day to day? And I think people drastically underestimate the impact it has on their mindset and subsequently their output creatively. What do you guys think?
I mean, could you even say it is also the sum of the people you look up to? In other words, you don't even know them, but from a creative point of view, your creative heroes, you know, that could be also an influence on how you feel about your work. And like, will you progress, or do you actually sit there beating yourself up every 5 minutes because you're not as good as your heroes? I mean, I don't know. Could you add that into the list?
Yeah, I think absolutely. In terms of your role models, it has a huge impact. And the example that I like to use with this is, think of teenagers who are reading like glossy, trashy magazines that often portray terrible body image and morals and values.
Yes.
And they're quite vulnerable and they're in like their most insecure years.
Yes.
And this is horrendous content for them to be consuming. It often leads to things like body dysmorphia and eating disorders and stuff like that. So it might not be that extreme, but like I've had this by consuming bad marketing advice, where that was kind of the dark years, and I had to pull myself out the other side and realize those guys were super sleazy. And the same thing happens creatively. You know, maybe you pick the wrong teachers and it's going to be a longer path to actually find the right way to do things. Or maybe you get incredible mentors. And I think all of us have had some kind of mentor at some point, whether that's in person or like just someone where we followed and learned a lot from them. But if you get the right mentor, I absolutely think they can be one of those 5 people. Like, there's probably people that I look to up to online. I probably spend more time listening to them than I spend with my parents.
That's true, actually. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's actually so true.
Yeah, and I mean, you see the people you work with, if you're in an office like I am, you see them more than your family and your friends.
Well, 100%.
Combined.
I mean, I see you guys more often than I see some of my friends, to be honest. Because, you know,
Well,
you're
we're
so...
your friends?
We're your friends.
No, but
yeah.
that sounded terrible. Sorry, I didn't mean to come out that way.
No, I am very much happy
understand
to be just a professional obligation to you, Lisa.
Oh, sorry.
You
That's
literally
not what
just
I
dropped my
meant.
friend count from 3 to 2. Now it's just Tom and Ian. And I'm not even totally sure about Ian. I don't know if he even likes me.
Dustin, I got some bad news for you, buddy.
Oh, man. Okay, 0.
Okay,
Perfect.
so what I meant to say was, even though you guys live, I don't know, thousands of kilometers away from me, I see you more regularly than my friends that I have just around the corner. You know, so
Isn't that mad?
it is crazy. It's crazy.
You should start a podcast with them.
Shit.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's funny.
It'll be like the South African lunch hour with Lisa and pals.
You should tie yourself to them through complex social obligations and shared, strange, niche interests.
Yeah.
That will help.
Isn't that how you guys make friends?
Through bribery and corruption. Yeah. So, if I look at you guys, I mean, I often think to myself, I'm so grateful that this happened because, I mean, as I've told you guys 1,000 times, Tom, if you hadn't asked me and I hadn't, if I wasn't thinking my usual way, I would have said no. I would have found some reason why that wouldn't work.
Yeah, you say that. I'm quite a persuasive gentleman, Lisa.
You
You
are.
ultimately didn't stand a chance.
That's true. That is true. Now that I know you well, yes, that is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so grateful for this because, as we've discussed often between the four of us, it's so difficult to feel that we can relate to other people because our jobs are so unusual, if I can call it that. I mean, it's not really unusual, but they're not like your common sort of jobs that you find on the street. It even sounds worse. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I really am taking a hole tonight, aren't I? Yeah, so what I'm saying is, you guys, it's just meeting with you once a week makes me feel sane. And yeah, it's like a really nice, comfortable feeling,
That's really sweet.
Yeah, that you've got somebody that you don't have to explain what you do, and you don't have to explain the troubles you're going through because you're either going through them yourself or you've been through them, or so yeah.
And no one else gets them.
No.
Not these very specific, to our industry type struggles. And we all just had a massive bitch and event before we started recording. Thank
Exactly.
goodness we didn't record that. We've got some degree of looking like nice people still.
Yeah.
But I think even that is healthy. And as much as our partners support us and care about what we do, I can never go this in depth like we do with my fiance. And I wouldn't want to. It would bore the pants off her.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I start talking about this stuff in depth with Cliff, and I can see that he starts getting that look in his eyes, like he's either not understanding what I'm saying, or he's bored out of his head,
It's
or
both.
A little from column A, a little from column B.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he supports me 100%. So that's, I definitely count him as the important cog in my whole kind of wheel.
Well, for people
but
who
in
don't,
terms-
for people who don't remember or aren't aware, we started this as kind of a mastermind group. It wasn't actually a podcast. We were just meeting up and, it was supposed to be a mastermind. It felt more like therapy sessions, like group therapy.
Yes.
We'd all just sit around talking about all of the things that were messed up in our brains. And I remember just talking to you guys and realizing, oh, thank God I'm not the only person that, had a horrible addiction to monitoring rankings of product, all these different stuff you do, and I realized, oh, okay, I'm still crazy, but
it's normal.
I'm on the spectrum with
I'm a
everybody
normal
else,
crazy.
everyone is on this spectrum that is in this business to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
And this whole thing of if I've got a really close friend and I love her to bits, but I can only, there's a surface level of what you can discuss in terms of your business with your friend that isn't in it. And yeah, so I think it's so important for you as a creative to have at least one other creative that you can, bounce stuff off, bitch about stuff that has the same understanding. And I think a lot of us make that mistake by not doing that. And, people argue, oh, I live in a small town, there's no one around me. Make a plan. You need to either join a Facebook book group or, do a mastermind group or whatever. There are ways. There definitely are ways.
yeah, it's the beauty of the internet. Like, none of us live that close to each other, especially not Lisa.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
miles away from anyone. But yeah, it's really is so powerful, and I love having that with you guys because none of the other people in real life for me do anything like what I do, and I have to talk about this stuff. I'm so passionate about what I do, and I love geeking out about it. It's why when I went to Creative South, like, I literally felt hyper the whole time because I was like, I can talk about this stuff day and night and drink margaritas at the same time.
Yeah.
It was really, really fun. And I just, I find myself talking to like my personal trainer about the aesthetics of his Instagram, for God's sake. and he'll be telling me that he actually cares about it, but I'm like, no, you don't. Like, he always will just go and enjoy like sitting in the sun or like getting pissed up with his mates or whatever, like any normal person. And I'm there being like, oh, why can't you just take it a bit more seriously and have a proper geek out about like Instagram bits? And just no one cares. Like, it's so niche to actually give a shit about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Let alone when you get into it. Like, we had some conversations at Creative South, which, as my dad would say, could have sent a glass eye to sleep for most people. Like, it was like about kerning and stuff like that, like really like geeky design things.
Tom, can we have your dad on as a guest? You've said a couple of pretty good stories about him. I'd love to have Tom's dad on and have him give his perspective on Tom.
Absolutely not.
From when Tom was a kid, be like, tell us the evolution of Tom. Tell us.
Yes, I vote yes.
I vote yes too. Here. That's 2 votes for a yes, 1 for a no. That's passed. It's been passed. Put it on the calendar.
I think you'd like him a lot, and I would be beyond mortified.
Okay, well,
and I love my
We'd
dad.
never told you like that.
No.
Well, the internet's a powerful thing. We'll see if we can find him, and then I'll book him into Calendly.
He doesn't even own a computer.
Okay, well, so you just gave me a little bit of information to help find him, so I know where not to look. No, but in all seriousness, one thing I think is good if you can find a group is what's unique about our group is they always say you don't want to be the smartest. If you're the smartest person in the room, I think they say you're like in the wrong room or something like that. Well, I'm never the smartest person in the room. I mean, it doesn't matter what room I go into, but in this case, like all 4 of us we're in the same field, but we do it differently enough that all of us know a lot about some particular angle of it. So no one is as smart as everyone benefits from everyone else's angle, which I really think is a lot of leverage because it's almost like having like a think tank.
Yes. That's a really good point because I suppose people might gravitate towards the exact same kind of person that they are, but there is benefit in choosing or being around people who can offer you something different that you wouldn't have thought of, or different approach to a particular idea or topic or problem. And I think that's like I wouldn't. I mean, it's weird. Like I guess would you guys have naturally gravitated towards me to be a friend? And really, I didn't. Okay, I'm glad that you understand.
I think you're awesome.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you, Tom. No, but I'm just saying, like, I'm so glad that this kind of thing is possible because you probably wouldn't have met, like these different people if you didn't kind of force yourself into a situation. And then, if it doesn't work out, you just move on. And thankfully this did work out. But I think people are too scared to just try, something new. I don't know.
Yeah, they are. And realize nothing is fixed. So I've done masterminds that lasted 3 weeks.
Really?
And I've done ones that lasted 3 months. And this is like coming up on 3 years.
Yeah. Tell us about the 3-week one.
Cool. It wasn't even like a big fallout, but when you can just tell like
this isn't
it's
happening.
not right, and no one's
Yeah.
And like in the past, I would literally just end up being the consultant of everyone else.
Oh,
and
that's horrible. Okay.
Well, I enjoyed it, but that's not really what mastermind is.
Exactly. Where's the benefit in it for you? So.
Yeah. So I think like the biggest thing I want to try and impart for this episode is to proactively audit the circle of people around you, including if that's people that you consume on social media. And I've done this several times, and I continue to do it, but it is so powerful when you actually go through the people you follow, like on Instagram or whatever, and delete people that you feel are adding nothing or adding negativity. So it will ebb and flow. I've had times in my life where I'm like, you know what? I need a lot of Gary V right now because I need that little shot of Adderall and, you know, energy and motivation. And that really helps me. And I've had other times where I'm really burnt out and literally I will scroll past a video of his and it will trigger an anxiety attack. And I'm just like, oh no, I can't deal. And during those times, I start following people that are more about like meditation and calm, soothing things of that nature. And I just think it's so powerful. It's like, if you get every single person that's a bit toxic or negative or you know, sucking the life out of you, and you unfollow them and you replace them with someone who's really wise or preaching good stuff, whether you're learning from them or getting motivated or a healthier mindset or looking after yourself, it doesn't even have to just be about design. I think the results will stagger you.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think about like in comments, I don't know if you guys experience this the same way I do, but we're in a pretty unique, very niche field of design in the sense that all of us are somehow involved in selling some sort of digital products in addition to a regular business or a more traditional design or illustration type business or something. And sometimes I'll look through the comments on things like, for instance, selling things online. It could be design things or it could be non-design related things. And there'll inevitably be a small percentage of people that are like, this is all a scam. This isn't true. Blah, blah, blah. Here's why it isn't. This just doesn't work. They are so convinced, man. And you're like, some people read that and they think this person has way more authority than they do. And they believe it. And they decide, well, this can't happen because this person said it, but I can see it. And I know it does happen. And I know dozens and dozens of people that it's worked for, probably hundreds. And you're like, wow, that's really a bummer because this guy's poisoning this whole well here for people with his words. So yeah, it's amazing what being around different people can do.
Can actually do.
Like life changing.
Yeah.
And we've all felt those people that are a bit of a leech or a drain. And we felt the people that fire us up and motivate us. And the difference is so stark. And I kind of debated about sharing this because it's quite personal, but I'm going to do it anyway. But growing up, and especially like in my like late teenage years, early 20s, one of my best friends at the time was, you know, a great guy, like very funny, good morals, all that kind of stuff, but like not that motivated and generally very negative, and often wouldn't take action and that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying everyone needs to be like super ambitious, far from it. But to give you an example, like we would sit in his room and he would be kind of moaning about like, oh, we should be out having fun and meeting people. And I'd be like, okay, so why don't we go out and have fun and meet people? And then there would be like some kind of excuse of, well, we can't do it for these reasons. And often it would just descend into like 4-hour-long bitching sessions about like, can't believe everyone else like out doing that. And like, why aren't we part of that? And you do get sucked into it, even if it's not your natural character. It's so easy just to fall into that trap. And it would just go like round and round and round. And we're not even friends anymore for like other reasons entirely, that transpired. But that was so palpable. Like literally it was like I wasn't me. And you guys know I'm not exactly like that. But it would just be like, when I think like the days and weeks and months wasted, and there were some great times in there and very funny times too, of course. Otherwise we wouldn't have been friends, but like just so much wasted time, just sat bitching and negative and like excuses and all that kind of stuff. And then there's been other people I've met in my life where I'm like, oh my God, like if I had this person as a flatmate, I think I'd be a billionaire by now. Not even from a business perspective, but it's like they fill me with energy. They pump me up. I feel great when I'm around them. And yeah, like I said, it's such a big difference.
It is a big difference. And I think the hard thing, the sad thing, and all, you know, and the joyful thing all at once is that realization that you've outgrown somebody that maybe did fill a particular role for you at a particular time in your life, and realizing you actually need to let that go. And it takes quite a lot of balls to actually, to admit to yourself this isn't working anymore when there was a time where you really enjoyed the company and you valued everything, about it. And I think that's the hard thing. And because of so hard, that's when people just get stuck and it starts like eating away at parts of you. And from a creative point of view, if I hear a lot of people, telling me their stories and I understand and I can relate to it. That whole thing of, my dad doesn't believe in me, or my husband thinks I shouldn't be doing this, or my friends laugh at me when they tell me I want to be an artist or whatever. It is so eroding. It's so erosive towards your confidence, let alone your career. I mean, that's like a whole nother, discussion.
I'm so glad you gave that example just there, because you totally brought it back to design in a great way. And there's a very young designer in my community, and he was genuinely scared of posting stuff about design on his social media and starting to build a presence around his passion there, because he said, all of my friends are just going to rip me a new one. And they're all going to make fun of me. And I said, look, you got all these people in this shared community here. We're all going to jump in the comments and back you up and like spread positivity and support. And if like anyone's jumping in, even if they're your friend, like we're going to stand up for you and be like, why are you being so negative? Like, what's your problem?
Yeah.
But and I appreciate maybe that comes more like in those teenage years where everyone's like pulling each other down out of their own insecurities. But that also transpires into adulthood. And it's so corrosive. Like say maybe it's a spouse who's like not believing in you or being really pessimistic. It can literally just change the course of your design career.
It changes the course and actually sometimes just never lets it happen, and I think that's so sad, because some people often find themselves much later on in life where perhaps they find themselves alone or, not with that partner or whatever, and they're finally allowing that side of them to explore their creativity. And I guess it's that whole it's like frustration and sadness that you never got that opportunity when you were younger. And that's why I think it's so important to try, that's why we're talking about the subject, is that you need to try and identify. It's difficult when you're so involved in the person, but you need to try and identify when things are actually not helpful. They're not doing it for your own good, but they're doing it because of their own insecurities,
Yeah.
And that's a big one.
I know for myself, I started being around a big change, like life-changing thing for me was being around people that were like doers, people that got things done, that said, well, I remember being in a band, for instance, and my friend Joel, he said, well, we're making an album. And before that, I could never get a band to make an album. I was like, how are we going to do it? He's like, I don't know. We ended up doing it in a garage with GarageBand. And then we ended up, pulling together money from shows and having the CDs duplicated. So back when people use CDs. And then I remember when I worked for Paid to Exist, and it was like online marketing and learning that. And he was like, well, we're going to release this. And how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to go onto this. I'm going to go on that. I'm going to build the email list, and I'm going to go talk to these people and do that. And then I'm going to release this. And then he'd start writing it, and we'd start organizing for these different events and just go through with it. And like it just taught me, go through with it, do these things, like just commit and do it. And that starts creating a weird echo chamber up. So he started doing that. Then I started doing that. And then when I made my business, I started doing that. And then I started making more money, and then more money and more traffic meant more people want to talk to me. Next thing you know, over time, it keeps chunking up until next thing you know, I'm on a podcast with 3 other people that are extremely successful at doing it, who, had I never done that, I would have never been able to be spending this much time with you guys, So it keeps amplifying more and more until next thing you know, almost like a virus in a good way, you're just surrounded by people that are very good at what they do and at the top of their game. And it can just start with one person that does that. But I would say if the person isn't like seriously making you question your beliefs, you don't have the right people in your life. There should be people that make you feel like, is that true? Because it sounds so insanely
it's a challenge.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's basically the opposite of the downward spiral, what you're talking about, or a slippery slope or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's so true. You get that kind of catalyst that kicks it off, and you can actually feel the momentum, right?
Yeah.
And it's so energizing. And I've actually noticed quite a few people, and this is really humbling, but quite a few people have cited us as being part of that inner circle for them.
Oh.
And some people like, I work from home. I don't get to see people that much. So you are part of my kind of echo chamber, but in a good way.
Oh, that's awesome.
Of advice. They're like, I got like my one best friend. I've got my boyfriend, and I've got you guys, and you're the people who I, listen to the most, that give feedback. And yeah, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's like they're hanging out with us. That's so cool.
Hey guys,
there's like some.
Can I grab you a beer?
Yeah.
There's one called the School of Life, like this YouTube channel called School of Life with a guy, I can't remember, Alain de Botton or something like that. He runs it, and I mean, I listen to this guy so much, I feel like he's my friend. I mean, this guy's voice, I could hear it in a crowded supermarket or something, and I would recognize it. And it's so much positive advice and good psychological advice and ideas, and he's just as much a mentor as a person in real life.
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing. I think when you get to know what you need, it's almost like a vitamin pill, right? So Dustin, you've recognized that guy gives you that little vitamin B shot, once a week or however often you listen or look to this stuff, and I think that's quite a healthy thing to also. Well, in a habit to get into is starting to recognize what you need as a person to really get your blood flowing. And I was just thinking, like, Marie Forleo is that for me, because I've been probably belonging to an email list, I don't know, probably 5-6 years, and I've probably like opened every single one of her emails because
wow, true fan.
Because she is literally that energy boost that we're talking about, that, like, how Dustin, you said, like, you were surrounded by people who are doers. Now she's that energy for me. Like, she makes me feel like I can literally do anything. If I put my mind to it and I work hard, I'll get it done. And I think it's a good thing. Like, everybody needs that somewhere in their life, whether it's something you read every day or once a week, or someone you follow, or a person you talk to. I think we need that little kick up the arse,
Yeah. Everybody needs someone that's creating possibilities in their mind for them.
Yes, and making you feel that it's that, like, anything there's no ceiling, there's no limits. Like, you should be around at least one person that makes you feel that you can achieve anything. Yeah, I think.
And I'm glad you said at least one, because I don't think that's all you should surround yourself with.
No,
because it's not like you need like a troop of cheerleaders.
No, it's
surround you at all times. Like, if you can't do it, no one can.
Yeah.
That would get a bit much. But if you've got one person, at least, who's got that gear, where it's that optimism and like you can do it, and that's fantastic, great. Maybe you got another person that's like a great listener, and you can bounce things off and kind of get a degree of support there.
Yeah,
you got another person who's kind of quietly wise. And that kind of Christo figure. I know that's why people gravitate to him. You got other people that are just fun, and you can like expel energy and have a good time with them. And I think having that mix in friends, but also your circle of what you consume and your mentors and so on, it's a really healthy mixture.
Yeah, very important.
What you're hearing over there, Big D.
No, yeah, I was just thinking you do need all those things. It's the people, or a lot of times it was books early on in my life, like Tim Ferriss's one is, of course, like a classic one for a lot of people. But there's a variety of them where you'll read them and they'll just tell you real solid stories that keep you inspired. And yeah, you can't just listen to that, or else I think you get caught in a pipe dream of some sort. People need to kind of keep you grounded, but I needed stuff like that to keep me just delusional enough to keep pushing forward.
Yes. Oh, I love that, because that's exactly, yeah.
I love it too. Were you like one of those kids in films where they're like, but I do have friends. My friends are William Shakespeare and Sylvia Plath.
I was definitely the weirdo who was like into in high school, I was reading self-help books like Dale Carnegie books and stuff like that. People probably
that's amazing.
I could so see that, and I think you could track that exactly to where you're at now in life, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I remember being embarrassed in the bookstore in the self-help section, afraid that someone was going to walk past and see me in the self-help section like for a half an hour.
It's so weird. I'm glad you brought up the book thing, because we often forget that as a decent resource, to go to learn from. Books have been a huge part in my development, I guess.
Yeah.
It's something important.
As this is the Honest Designers show, how comfortable are you guys, by way of example, to share your honest circle of your closest people and the impact they have on your life? Are we happy to get that personal?
Yeah, I just have to. Some of it is a bit abstract, though.
That's okay. So I'm going to encourage us to combine people that we consume in terms of their content, so we might not know them, and mentors in that way, along with people in real life and stuff like this. So I'll kick us off. I would say, of course, Maxine, my fiance, and she's just incredibly supportive and patient, as you guys know, because often I'm like running home really late after doing these, but also very grounding for me as a entrepreneur and as a creative, because I'll get really carried away, as we all do. Like, I know, Lisa, you'll lock yourself away for like days drawing.
Yeah.
And she's my person where I'm quite glad she doesn't do what I do, because then I think we'd both just go into this crazy mania, and she'll like get me back down to earth and talk me down off the ledge and level me out, which is really lovely. Then I've got my best mate, Nick, and he's awesome as well. Like, really supportive, like very similar to all of us, I think, like quite thoughtful and introspective, but positive and ambitious and moral and just very good guy. And so that kind of helps steer me there, but equally like very encouraging for me to want to keep pushing forward and be around like-minded people. I would say you guys as well, like genuinely, we spend a good number of hours each month together. And that's like being able to geek out over like-minded stuff, but equally, like you said, it's almost like the sum of the parts. So Dustin makes me want to get better at email marketing, when we geek out over stuff. Like Lisa, you've got so many qualities in your work that just make me want to be a better creative. And equally, sometimes in group discussions, when we're talking about stuff, I will start off with a certain mindset and I'll sit back and listen and then be like, actually, I was kind of wrong on that. And you guys won't always know that I'm doing it because I won't voice anything, but I'll just come out the other side of just listening to you with a totally different opinion about something. And so it'll be like better informed as a result of that group. So I love that. And then there is like a couple of more entrepreneurial characters that I follow on social media, but they tend to be quite balanced. But I mean, for example, like they preach a lot of stuff about mindset, where it's like putting in the work every day and showing up and consistency. And even things down to like, I'm really obsessed at the minute about the effect of compounding.
Yeah.
So if you get 1% better every day for a year, you end up 37 times better than you were when you started.
Amazing.
And that maps to like anything. And so obviously you're not going to be quite that consistent, and you're not going to be 37 times better in a year, but you could be, twice as good or 3 times as good. And that's entirely possible with like the right effort. And I think that maps to, everything I consume. I'm not consuming people that preach like Lamborghinis and watches. I'm consuming people that are against materialism and money buying happiness. And therefore my actions map to like wanting to create cool art and help people.
Yeah.
But a lot of that comes from the lessons I've learned from my circle. So I think I'm just getting like a lot of positive values and mindset channeled with support and like-minded people I can geek out over. And for me, that's like a really healthy balance.
Yes.
But I guess the key thing is it took me years and years and years to get there. And it's still evolving, but it seems like year on year to be getting healthier and getting better as I kind of shed some more negative people and influences.
Yeah, and don't you find it now that you're older and you've gone through a bit, you can actually pinpoint when things are starting to go a little bit off and find it easier to know who you should be gravitating towards and who you shouldn't be, and that to me, I mean, that's the exciting thing about getting older. One of the good things,
so important, because some people will tell you, I mean, literally, I'll write and be like, this is happening. And some people will be like, oh, shit! Exclamation point. I mean, that's not what you need to hear. You know, you want to go to the person that says, okay, let's work this out. Let's break this problem apart. So it really does depend on who you go to. One person will put a lampshade on their head and start running into walls when you tell them things are going bad. Another person will sit down and be like, okay, this isn't so bad. We can handle this. You know?
Yes.
I mean, it's super important who you talk to. Like, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, I was really stressed out about something, and I was talking to you guys about it, and you and Tom had told me your opinions on it, and it was a very calming, rational reason why things were happening, and I felt much calmer than had I gone to, I won't mention different names, but someone else who might have started like banging their head against the desk, being like, you need to like
freak out.
Get out of the country and like
yeah. Yeah, you know, that's actually why I don't read. I mean, I know it's bad because it means that I'm a bit of an ostrich, but that's why I don't listen to the news or read the paper. Because
thank you. I get so much grief for this, but I'm exactly the same because all they do is proliferate the worst things in the world because that's what sells eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
And I hate it because it's such a skewed view because there's so much awesome stuff happening all the time.
Correct.
I subscribe to a newspaper called The Happy News that exclusively posts happy, positive, amazing things.
Oh, that's cool.
They happen all the time. There are species that are going extinct that have been saved against all odds. There's been like entire towns that have lined up to donate bone marrow and saved like a boy that was dying. Like all of these cool things, right? Happening every day. Yeah, every time I switch on the news, it's like another person got raped and murdered and screwed over.
Depressing.
Like, why do I want to see that? Yeah. And I'll go months or years without watching the news, and I'll turn it on, and it's like time went by at all. It's just the same, and it always has been. Yeah. And I hate it. So I'm glad that you're the same.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, fortunately, from the point of sorry.
It's all right. Someone's just stolen a car outside Lisa's house by the sound of it.
Someone stole Lisa's Lamborghini.
Grand Theft Auto. Yeah.
Fortunately, from a point of view of like, you know, knowing whether America is still out there and whether the UK hasn't, I don't know, sunken into the sea. Cliff is kind of like reading the news, and he keeps me up to date in a very mild way. But yeah, if I just look at him, he's obsessed with that, and it's the first thing he reads in the morning. When he wakes up, he reads the news. And I don't know, just for me, that's like such a crappy way to set up your day. But he seems to deal with it well, so kind of.
A lot of people do, but I just, it really does my head in.
Yeah, it's not for me. And you know what? I think that's another example of how it's important to know that just because the rest of society is doing one particular thing, that doesn't mean you have to follow suit. Because if it doesn't float your boat, you shouldn't be doing it. You know, if it's bad for you, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, there's no rules. Like, for a period, I actively stopped watching the news. This is when I was more on and off with it. And this is going to sound, like, really weird. But I started using my small windows of time in the day to watch stand-up comedy.
Oh, yes! Instead. I've done that.
And, like, the difference in my mood.
I know.
I'll be there, like, giggling to myself and releasing endorphins, rather than being like, oh, brilliant, some, like, pensioners just had acid thrown in her hair. Yeah. I'm like, great. Isn't humanity despicable?
Yeah. Sometimes if I'm really stressed, I'll look up, like, YouTube videos of news bloopers. You know, where the newscasters are doing the news and they mess them up? And, like, they'll be, like, 30-minute, like, there's so many of them, they'll be, like, 30-minute whole segments, and I mean, you can just get sucked down a hole cracking up with these people.
Yeah, so true.
Lisa, are you happy to share your circle?
So Cliff is kind of like the he's like Maxine for you. He's like my pillar. He keeps me grounded, and sometimes he gives me a good talking to because I need it. That sounds bad. Because, I mean, just recently, I don't know, I was freaking about a whole bunch of stuff about my business and my career and where it's going. And, you know, and he just calmly spoke me through everything. And I realized, hang on a minute, I need to stop, you know, going down this hole. And so, yeah, it's super important. Cliff is everything, I have to be honest.
Aww.
Yeah. And then there's
who needs five closest people to you when you've got one Cliff?
I was going to say, like, he really does fill like a lot of seats. but yeah, he obviously, he lacks a few things. That's why I get like from my friends, like you guys and my friend Pearl. I'm really close to her. She is super supportive. She may not know all the ins and outs about my job, but I could literally be doing anything and she'd like cheer me on. But the lovely thing about her, and which is not a common thing for girlfriends, is that she is super honest too. And she'll tell me if I've got a giant bogey hanging out my nose. But besides that, she will tell me if I'm kind of, losing the plot. So that's quite cool. And yeah, the other support stuff is more abstract. It's like the stuff that I pin on Pinterest. I know that sounds really kind of, I don't know, airy fairy, but like I have this like secret little board, and it's all the things that light me up when I look at them, like stuff that really makes me feel warm inside. It's all arts related, and it's kind of like they speak to my inner child, and that is serious, like fodder for my soul. So that definitely is a big one. And then there's a couple of artists that I look up to that I follow on Instagram, but I'm not I'm really bad at like doing that kind of thing. Like I don't get stuck on social media. So I'll see it like maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and that's it. And then, as I said, like there's Marie Forleo that helped me, lights fire up my ass. And yeah, I would say that's kind of like sums it up in a nutshell. And of course, I'm very spiritual, and that has I'm very spiritual, and that might have a big impact. Well, not might, it does have a big impact on my life and my work. And I don't have a religious sort of, what do you call it? Denomination? Is that a right word?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't belong to anything, but I have a strong
It's funny you talk about religion, then it goes to Tom, and he literally has a beam of light shining down of him on the video.
It does. You look like an angel. Yeah, so that is big in my life as well. How about you, Dustin?
I like that. It's a good mix. What do you got, Dustin?
Well, I've definitely actively seeked out mentors for a lot of my life. I think I probably read it early on, and I remember working at the bank and asking, I mean, this is so embarrassing in hindsight, but I remember working at the bank as a teller and asking for a personal meeting with the president of the bank.
Yeah? That's brave.
Yeah, like, I mean, the president, the VP, the head of marketing guy. I ended up having the head of marketing for this bank mentor me for a while. People would come into the bank that had successful businesses, and I would ask them if they'd go out to lunch with me, if I bought them lunch, and then have them mentor me.
Wow, Justin. That's nothing to... I don't know why you're embarrassed. I think that's incredibly brave and, like, amazing.
No,
wow.
I'm glad I did it. It felt... In hindsight, I look back, I think how awkward it must have seemed for a young, a 22-year-old guy to come into a CEO's office and then be talking to him like a baby. I think
people are quite flattered, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they were all super helpful. And, I mean, they all did give me good information, and especially some of the people that came into the bank that had successful businesses, they would tell me things. One man in particular had a software business, and I remember just going to this golf course place, like golf club, I guess, whatever they're called, and he took me there for lunch and was talking to me about the business. What?
But I'm obsessed with golf at the minute.
Oh, okay.
a golf course place.
What do they call it? I can't remember the fancy places where like you have to pay to go there. Donald Trump has a bunch of them.
Yeah, like a golf club. Yeah.
Something like yeah.
Or a golf course. Yeah.
Yeah, but it has the club part on it. So anyways, that was a big part. But then like I had a Jonathan Mead when I was working for Paid to Exist, and after that, he coached me a lot on building my own business and on what was important. You guys, I kind of put into one bucket because I see you all at once every single time. But you guys are definitely give me a good mix of ideas for things. My wife, for my family, she, focuses me in on our family. And Diane Gibbs and Lenny Terenzi have had a big impact on me. They're both huge people that know so many people in the design industry. And I feel like they always have someone to mention that they can connect you to, or that they can say, here's how this person did this or that. Yeah. And then probably for a person that like is not a person I personally know, it would probably be Noah Kagan, who owns a company called AppSumo as well as Sumo.
Okay, Dork.
Yeah, and Okay Dork is his personal blog, and I like him because he's just kind of scrappy. He just doesn't make things polished. He just tries to get things out and tries to be efficiently useful. So he's my mentor that I don't really know. I guess we've emailed a couple times, but he wouldn't know who I was.
Yeah.
I heard from someone that knows him that I also know. They were sat round a barbecue and he mentioned design cuts spontaneously in a conversation, and the guy kind of fed it back to me that I know, and I was like, Noah Kagan's talking about my company? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm not surprised that you follow him, Dustin. That makes sense.
Yeah, he's very fascinating. He's built small, little, humble businesses that have done well, and he's built gigantic businesses that have done very well. So he's an interesting character. And I'm always intrigued by people that don't have all the skills they need to make something happen. Like, for instance, Noah Kagan can't code, for instance. He doesn't know how to code or do these things, but he's able to find talented people to put the whole puzzle together. That's, Tom, you're a lot like that too. So I find those people most fascinating.
I can't code for shit.
Right, yeah. So like there's a lot of things you can't do. So it's really fascinating to see how you pull things together, because there's a lot of things I can't do. So it's really a skill to be good.
It is a skill.
At pulling together the right people to make something happen. And so I'm like, man, those are the people with the best skill, because they can make anything happen because they know how to find people, recruit them, and get them to cooperate together to make something.
Yes.
That's cool.
Richard Branson.
What?
Yeah.
Richard Branson.
Yeah. There you go.
So kind of bringing it back to the wonderful creatives that listen to this show, what are some actionable tips we can give them? And I know I've already given this one, but I would say go through your social media feed and actively unfollow people by auditing who actually brings value and who detracts value.
And if I can add to that, it even includes people you look up to, but every time if you see their work, you feel bad about yourself, you need to unfollow them, because that's not helpful,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say
what else we got?
I would say
I was gonna say
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you guys.
Okay, quickly, I was just going to say audit the people around you, and if it's somebody that's important in your life, but every time you speak about your dream of, creativity or just your business and they're negative about it, then don't, it doesn't mean you don't have to see them anymore. It just means that you need to maybe change your conversation or relationship from that point of view.
I would say find someone that is successful and feels slightly out of reach, like just a little out of reach of what seems possible for you, and keep reaching out to people like that until you find someone that you can build some sort of relationship with, which probably means you're either going to do work for them or you're going to help them in some way. But I feel like knowing someone that's ahead of you quite far and hearing the conversations, the internal conversations and the subtle conversations that you would never see online or in a book, but they're just the natural way the person is thinking, can go so far, because oftentimes, like we forget that other people don't know things. And when you're around those people, they start saying things and you start to get an idea of, oh, that's a weird way to think about it. And then you realize, oh, of course that's how you think about it. So you have to, you have to soak in the random things about that person's thought process.
Yes, that's a good point, Dustin.
And
I like
that kind of goes back to what you said earlier, Dustin, in terms of don't be afraid to be the dumbest person in the room.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I love it. Good little roundup, guys. So to the dear listeners at home, wherever you are, I hope that was helpful. It was kind of a bit of a different episode, I would say, but so applicable. Like we've talked about this before. could make the difference between hitting that flow state or creative block if you have a terrible circle around you or a really inspiring, supportive one. So I hope this is good food for thought. And as always, we will see you this time next week. Bye from us.
Bye.
Cheerio. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes and now Spotify by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're now on social media too, if you search for Honest Designers. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.